What's going on, everyone? So, Martin, he is kind of like the groundskeeper or whatever. I mean, not really groundskeeper because he's chained up, but he's like the guy that's there in the dungeon, in those ruins, and keeps talking about somebody else that is there, somebody else that lives there, resides there, that we haven't seen. Now, we were introduced to the man in yellow, and it would make sense that that is kind of where the man in yellow dwells. It's also very possible that maybe it's somebody else entirely or somebody's entirely, right? Because, he said like they or they're coming back, right? Like, does that mean multiple? Is that just they're referencing that the man in yellow? Is the man in yellow kind of multiple people, multiple things, right? Multiple entities. That could be something kind of interesting. That could be an interesting route to kind of take and dive into here. But there's a lot of directions in which they could go with the dungeon and how they want to approach it. But what we do know is that that is kind of the center hub for Julie and time travel, right? Martin knew exactly who Julie was, right? So that clearly means that Julie had been there prior. And that means that Martin had been there prior. Is he kind of the gatekeeper, right? Is he kind of the person that is there to kind of monitor it? Is he the man in yellow, right? Like, is that a possibility? That could be something, right? But point is that there is clearly time travel. And we know Julie is a time traveler. And it's very possible that she's the only one that is the time traveler, right? Because, just like we saw with Tabitha and Jade, every version of them prior all failed, right? So there might have been other ones that were chosen and destined to be story walkers, but never explored enough or never were able to come to that realization or didn't live long enough or whatever, right? Essentially failed to reach the level in which that Julie ended up reaching. That's always a real possibility. But my question is, okay, if Julie can time travel, right? And let's say she is the only one from the characters of FROMVILLE throughout history and time. And the dungeon is this sort of hub for that time traveling. And let's assume that the man in yellow does truly reside in that dungeon. And he's not there. Where is he? Is he just like chilling? Is the man in yellow just kind of walking around, living his best life? Maybe he's monitoring the town, right? Like, there's a million things that you could argue that he's doing, right? Maybe he's just kind of observing and, maybe he has another place where he resides or something, right? Like, there's a lot of different things that you can approach, right? Is he the one that, chained and tied up Martin? Possibly, right? Is it also possible that maybe he can story walk as well? Not necessarily time travel, right? But story walk as well, right? What if he keeps disappearing and not in the place that he was because he's story walking? He's going in a different time frames and gathering information and, making sure things are being done proper and, maybe correcting certain things and certain elements, right? It's very possible that he's even following after Julie, right? If Julie can time travel and, story walk and move from place to place to place, right? Like, it would make sense that you need kind of somebody to kind of balance everything out, right? If Julie messes something up, right? Let's say she actually does save somebody. He comes in right behind her and takes them out, right? So that way the actual timeline, the story stays intact. Yes, maybe they didn't die the way that they're supposed to, but, like Jim, for example, right? Man in Yellow took out Jim. Maybe that's because Julie keeps getting involved. Right? He said knowledge, right? You talk about, was he talking about Jim or was he talking about his daughter? And the knowledge that his daughter has gained, and the cost that comes with what Julie is doing. And he needs to now kind of correct that and fix that and maybe even teach Julie a lesson. We're going under the assumption that, it was about Jim. What if it wasn't? What if it was about Julie? What if Julie is the one that they need to that he needs to teach the lesson to. Class is in session. I'm about to teach you a lesson. You think you have the knowledge? You're trying to learn how to change the story, right? Well, everything has a cost. Knowledge has a cost. You can go back in time now. You know that you can interfere. Well, there's a cost to that, right? Maybe Jim was supposed to die a different way, but she comes and intervenes. Maybe he was supposed to walk down and hang out. Maybe it gets too dark on his hike back or something and gets taken out by a monster or something. But now because Julie's intervening, she is trying to get him out of there. He needs to show up and kind of make sure that Jim still gets taken out, right? Or maybe again, if he's really just observing, as we've seen, right, with the CB radio, right, where it tells Jim, your wife really shouldn't have dug that hole, Jim. So we know he's monitoring. We know he's observing. We know that he's, in many ways, kind of maybe even the storyteller, right? He's the one that's allowing the story to envelop, right? He's the one that potentially even created FROMVILLE, and he's just trying to make sure everything stays in order, because there is this order, there is this sort of balance to things, right? So what if that's kind of his mission, that's kind of his goal, it's kind of what he does, and so in doing so, he's kind of keeping the ship right? Julie's trying, jump through all these times, trying to change history, trying to change the story. And he can't have that, right? Because now you're messing with the order here. Now you're messing with the balance here, right? And I do think that, kind of the knowledge part, it's one of those things where what if it was her? What if it was to teach Julie the lesson? What if it was to kind of show, we don't know what's going to happen after, right? So she shows up, she tries to get her dad away, which could also be kind of a bit of a paradox, right? He dies because of her, right? Where he doesn't try to play hero and protect his daughter if his daughter isn't there. He might have saw the man in yellow and just took off running. Didn't want to take any chances, didn't want to take any risks, right? But the daughter's there. He goes and tries to fight off the man because he's trying to save his daughter, right? So you could have this sort of paradox, this kind of, hey, you're messing with things that you don't understand. You're getting involved in things you don't understand. You're kind of getting in the way of things. You need to knock that off. You need to cut that out, right? And so she's trying to mess with stuff, and he's kind of trying to correct things. Right? And you have this kind of cycle, and he's kind of teaching her this lesson of you can't change the story. Ethan told you, you should have listened. Right? And, Julie, maybe the man in yellow even explains that to Julie. Right? It's very, very possible that she kind of gets a history lesson. Right? Because like I said, Jim shows up, or Julie shows up with Jim, tries to convince Jim to leave. Man in yellow shows up. Man in yellow rips Jim's throat out. And then Julie lays there screaming after she gets kind of tossed by the man in yellow. Why didn't the man in yellow just kill her there? Man in yellow easily could have killed her. They took him out and her out. Maybe he does, right? Especially if this is a different version of Julie. There's a lot of ways that they can kind of go about this. But I'm curious to see how they kind of approach this, and what capabilities does the man in yellow have? You gotta imagine if there is this big bad, and there is this kind of overseer and this sort of ominous presence, right? You'd have to imagine that he'd be able to kind of tap in and go where he needs to go in any form of that realm or whatever it is. Right? Pocket dimension, whatever you want to call it, right? So it makes sense that if Julie can travel to different stories, so could the grand overseer, right? And make sure that she's not changing the story. Kind of be the balance. Make sure that all the order stays in place, that everything stays the way it's supposed to. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I could definitely see the man in yellow being that. And that's kind of his purpose, right? Kind of making sure everything kind of everything truts along. You know, things are changing in this place. It's because things have been throwing off the order, have been throwing off the balance. So he's got to come and kind of correct some stuff, kind of fix some things, put the pieces back on the board, so to speak. Right? A lot of different ways that they go about this. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, and I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? What are your thoughts? Do you think that he could potentially be a story walker as well as Julie? Do you think, no, absolutely not, it's just solely Julie? Do you want the man in yellow to be that? Do you think that, no, that get a little carried away? I haven't felt whatever your thoughts are. I'd love to hear it either way, so let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. We enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.